Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer. Today and all week, we have had the honor of having Anthony Lambatos with us. Anthony is our local hospitality guy, if I could give you that title.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty suiting. And so you are the owner of Footers Catering. It's a second-generation family business for you.
That's right.
Yeah. So yesterday we had on Juan Padro, and he was in charge of several restaurants and bars here in town, and he's got a couple more coming out. But today we're switching gears a little bit. Do you want to introduce us to your guest for today?
Yes, I'm very, very excited. This whole week is I think, awesome to focus on such an important industry in Colorado, and nationally for that regard too. But I really wanted to highlight different areas of the hospitality industry because it really is so vast. You know, it is everything from restaurants, like you mentioned, and bars to, brewery and beverage production, which has become a huge piece of our business. And then you have, catering and events, and hotels. I mean, hotels are something that's really important. And so it's what our focus is going to be on today. I am really, really excited because our guest today is a extremely well-respected person in the hotel industry, and a good friend of mine today. We have Monica Cheeks, who is the corporate director of events at Hyatt Hotels. So Monica, thank you for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes. So let's go ahead and dive in. You've been at Hyatt for quite a while now.
Yes.
Why did you originally choose to go into hotels and that part of the hospitality industry?
Well, it was by accident, Anthony. If I really went back, we might be here an hour listening to my story, but I'm going to give you the very short version of this. Actually, growing up, my family had a motel. So I really didn't think I was going to get into the hospitality business because I was making beds and checking people in at a very young age.
So we share that because I grew up in the catering business, saying I would never work in the catering business. I can relate.
Right? But I think somehow this all ends up being in our hearts. If you're service oriented, and which really truly is the definition for me of hospitality, it's just in there a little bit and it just can't quite exit. My way, or how I got started really was going to University of Denver here in Colorado. I decided that I was going to take a year off from school. I was having a little bit too much fun. I was actually a graphic design major, and that is where I pull my knowledge now from, is my creative side of the brain. I'm not a very analytical person. And I went back home, and home was Lake Tahoe, and there happened to be a Hyatt there, and I knew the general manager, and I said, I'm going to take a year off and decide what I'm going to be when I grow up. Can I get a job? He said, of course you can have a job. Give me a little time, and I'll call you when I've got something for you. That didn't last very long. He called me right away and said, I've got a great job bussing tables in one of our fine dining establishments in the hotel. And I said, great, I'll be right there. So I went, and I never left. And that was about a little over 35 years ago. So I grew up in the food and beverage operations, and I unfortunately never went back to school, but I've had a very good career by learning and growing from within the business. So it's a little bit different.
That's awesome. But I think it also... there's a lot of people in hospitality that have had a similar experience.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I think is really cool is our industry has evolved quite a bit, that people are aspiring to work in hospitality, where years ago it was something you started in and you liked, so you continued doing it. And now you have, educational programs that are specifically designed to careers in hospitality. And you have, the Food Network that's made it such a celebrity and a popular thing to be a chef. And so I think it's been cool to see that evolution.
Oh, yeah, it has totally evolved. I mean, when I went to DU, there wasn't a hotel restaurant tourism program in place at that time. So I didn't even know about it. But there is now. And of course, many of our universities around the country have really amazing programs, especially right here in Colorado with the other universities. So I love it.
Yes.
I think it's great.
Yes.
And it's been an interesting path for sure.
And ironically, tomorrow our guest is going to be Dr. Corson from DU and the hospitality school. So we are going to spend some time focusing on that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So talk a little bit about, this is a fairly new position for you. Talk about maybe the last two positions you've had in your career path through Hyatt and how that's changed.
Mm-hmm. So, interestingly, what brought me to Colorado is the gorgeous Hyatt Regency Denver that's right next to the Colorado Convention Center. I arrived back in Colorado in 2005 as the opening director of events or director of catering. What an amazing project and something to be a part of. There hadn't been a new hotel or even a big high-rise building built in quite a few years. And it kind of started, I would say, and kicked off really how Denver has exploded and really Colorado has exploded in the business world, and what I've seen in the last 13 years. The previous jobs before that, too, were also directors of events at other properties in Southern California. But my last 2 years, I've left working inside the hotel and now work really for our corporate office. But I was lucky enough to stay here in Colorado and work from home, which I don't see very often. I'm on the road quite a bit, really supporting all of our properties on the West Coast, and sometimes I dabble into international locations to help with some projects and training. So where I saw business from, an internal one property view or the community within the immediate Denver area, I'm kind of now looking at our world from maybe a 30,000 foot view. No pun intended on that one, but it's interesting to see it with a broader perspective, but also, still visiting my old property as I support that hotel and also the Grand and some of the other Hyatts that are in and around the area, and then seeing what's going on with all of the other, hotels coming on board, i.e. Gaylord, the next big thing happening.
That's going to change the landscape just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is.
Talk a little bit more about the hotel industry specifically in Colorado, and I think you have a great perspective because now you've had a chance to see what's going on across the nation.
Yeah.
Dive into that a little bit and what you see going on.
So, if I look back when I first got here in 2005 and then opening the hotel at the end of that year, Denver has just boomed in regards to the business and the conventions and the events happening here. I feel like we were a bit of a secret, and I think that we weren't really part of a plan for business to come here. And so from a hospitality perspective, it was amazing and fun to be a part of that community, including all the rest of the hotels and partnerships. Everybody is doing great and the business was great, and there's more hotels, coming into the market and a lot of hotels being built. I wish there was more big hotels in the downtown area and not all smaller select service or limited service type hotels, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later. But the hospitality community and what's happened has grown like just leaps and bounds as to the quality, the caliber. We're competing with some of the other big cities around the country, which I think Denver really wasn't viewed that way, or even Colorado really wasn't viewed that way. You think of the mountains, and the mountains are just a destination and vacation, and you think of Colorado Springs or Denver as a couple of major markets, and it was very different. And I think we've just really jumped into being a part of the sequence or rotation of business that says, oh, let's go to Chicago this year, let's go to Florida, Denver, maybe Texas, maybe California. So it's a little bit different, but it is an amazing time, I think, to be in Colorado, and has been an amazing time. And I think everybody keeps thinking it's gonna, when's it gonna slow down? But it really hasn't yet. And for probably a number of factors. And yes, there's still good years and bad years, but that's part of the business cycle too. And that's just normal. But I think I think for us, the outlook is it's going to keep growing. There's an amazing opportunity for people to get involved or make a career of the hospitality industry. And I think, you know, for us, I'm a little bit worried that we can't find enough good people.
Right.
But I think it's pretty amazing. The opportunities are huge, and I don't see that much of a slowdown.
That's great. What, you know, you mentioned more, you know, larger scale hotels. What does that do for a city to when they have that in a centrally downtown area? It
helps us get bigger and better business, and there's plenty of really, really large associations that have their meetings annually that we probably won't get because we don't have the right hotel package for them, meaning they would like to put their people in less hotels instead of 20 hotels, and also having to look all the way at the tech center or going out to the older Stapleton area or even all the way out by DIA in the airport area just to be able to house. And Boulder, I mean, if you think about it, they spread out into different areas depending on what the size of the show is and whether they're bringing 10,000 people or 20,000 people to the area for any type of conference or convention.
I may be totally off on the statistic, but I heard it was a few years ago that at the time there were more hotel rooms in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas than all of downtown Denver combined.
Yeah.
I mean, to put that in perspective was mind-blowing to me of, wow, this one hotel.
Absolutely.
And so when you're talking about our capacity to be able to handle some of those large-scale conventions, we really are limited in that.
Yeah. And they just want to be right next to the convention center, you know, and be able to not have to shuttle everybody, but let it be walkable, and just the ease of getting from one location to the next. And then, of course, the ease of managing the people in the housing. So
how will, you know, in your opinion, how will Gaylord impact that?
That's interesting, because now that I'm not inside of the hotel to see maybe on a day-by-day who we are winning and who are we losing business to and where are they deciding to go, I'm not sure how much of an impact that is yet. I do think that Gaylord has a pretty amazing business model in that they try to keep their programs rotating throughout the other Gaylord properties. So whether they're going to their Gaylord Texan or the National or Opryland, I think that they keep their customer within, and they really focus on that more than anything. But that doesn't mean that they can't try to win some of the other smaller business that might only use the Hyatt, for example, and need some convention center space. If they can house the whole thing in one building at the Gaylord, they could win that very easily, and they probably are. So it'll be interesting. I had a conversation with, I don't even remember who recently, but we talked about how difficult it is to staff the hotels out by the airport. You know, Weston, I think, is always challenged because if you don't have a community close by to pull from, your workers, they're having to really train, bus, you know, find the mode of transportation to get there. And I'm going to be very curious to see how they're able to staff this massive operation.
Right. So talk about what else you think is potentially coming to the hotel industry, or how it's going to evolve over the next, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting because I think that topic is a huge topic. Because if you look at what's happened recently, if you go backwards and forwards, so many things have changed in such a short amount of time with, Airbnb.
Yes.
How online travel agencies work, and what they were like, 10 years ago or longer with how Priceline was so popular. Well, now we're looking at all these other ones that you don't really hear about Priceline anymore. So I think that people are gobbling each other up. They're folding into other businesses, booking.com, hotels.com, all of that. But moving forward, I think everybody in hotel business is kind of looking at how do I keep up with all of that?
Interesting.
And how do we get into other opportunities besides just hotel business. I think everybody's thinking that, how
Okay.
do you diversify and how do you think about, where else should we be? And so, if I think of just Hyatt, since I know that so well, Hyatt recently bought last year Miraval, which is this amazing wellness retreat spa outside of Tucson, Arizona. There's 2 more properties that Miraval had bought that will become part of the Miraval family, one in Austin and one on the East Coast. And they're totally that inclusive type of a product. It has 120 different activities. It's about wellness and mindfulness and nothing else. And yeah, there might be small corporate events, but it's not really set up except for maybe for 20 people, that type of a thing. Then Hyatt bought also Exhale, which is a very, very high-end fitness center or facility, standalone, that are in key markets. And they definitely cater to the more luxury. So Hyatt sees itself as that luxury product. So they're trying to align with where do their guests go for other services and how can we become more, I don't want to say all-inclusive, but have more offerings that align ourselves to our customer and our guests. So that's just Hyatt, We're a small fish, kind of, in a big pond. And I say that because Hyatt as a brand name is very recognizable, but only about 700 properties around the world total, compared to the now Marriott Starwood conglomeration with 3,000, 4,000, properties around the world. So it's a big, big different presence from one to the next. So do you compete with that, or where do you find your niche? So it's interesting. I think that everybody's looking for different ways to figure out how to be relevant, how to keep moving their business forward, or do they find growth opportunities for their business? And what is still managed versus what is franchised, which is a big part of our business too right now. More and more of our hotels are being sold that were owned by Hyatt.
Okay.
And now maybe being managed by another company, but still says Hyatt on the outside of the building, which is what Marriott does. I mean,
yeah, it's commonplace for the industry.
Very commonplace, but wasn't originally with Hyatt. That's what made Hyatt different before.
It was all interesting. So you're branching into that side of things.
It went from a privately owned family business to now a publicly traded business. So very different.
Well, and one of those decisions you have to make to probably scale a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And get to that next level. I love what you're talking about on the, amenity side and the experience. I mean, that's, as we're talking about hospitality, it really is about the experience. And, Airbnb, yes, there's a lot of buzz about it, but it still, correct me if I'm wrong, is a very small percentage of the, night stays travel-wise. Is that correct?
You would think about it, but if you looked online today, it would valuate it at a $31 billion company. So it's really not that small.
Okay.
It's just managed differently because of the network that they have. So, if you look at Amazon and you look at Google and you look at these other, big companies, they're all getting into the market.
Sure.
They're all jumping into how can they be now they're wedging themselves in between, like a third party, to figure out, how can I sell space in unique spaces for meetings and events? So they're all doing it.
Right.
You just have to pay attention to what's going on.
And that's the stuff that's
what's changing. This is like what I see for the next 5 years is that, keep an eye on who is the competition, because the traditional competition used to be the other hotel brands and the other chains. Now the competition is everywhere and in different places, and it's not the traditional that we used to have.
Right, and it's growing faster and faster every year.
Oh, absolutely.
And creating that hospitality experience. So, that's taking care of people. I think you referenced that early on in our conversation about being very service oriented.
Yeah.
and that's where I think there is some differentiators. You know, you can go on Airbnb and say, okay, I want to stay in this place, and I go and I have my place to stay, but you know, I don't have access to the gym, and I don't have access to the wellness programs, and you know, so adding those services, I think, is something that is setting those hotels apart. So talk to us. I mean, being in it for so long and growing up in it, what lessons have you personally learned from being in the hospitality industry?
Every day is different. That's probably what I absolutely love the most about this industry, is that it isn't the same. You don't walk through the door and you don't go through the exact same monotonous tasks. It is just so varied. I think that because people are so much a component of it, and everybody's different and everybody has different needs, and we have different personalities and different thoughts, and we're different generations, you know, it just makes it different. But it's also the same. We still check people in. They still sleep in your hotel. They still need to eat. They still have events. They still have meetings. They want them to be successful. They, you know,
the foundation
is still there, but the path to get from A to B and B to C and C to D, that is the part that's probably a little bit different all the time because of what someone's vision might be, or what their keys to success are, or hot buttons, or whatever you want to call them. I think that's what takes the journey a little bit different all the time. So the journey is definitely, I think, what makes it different. You know, we're problem solving all the time, and I think that's a challenge, and it makes it fun, actually. And if you have that in you to want to handle it, you know, you either are or you're not. You know, some people do not want conflict, and they don't want anything to go wrong, and they just want it to be all nice and kumbaya and wonderful. And that is not going to happen in our world of hospitality.
You're preaching to the choir here, because we talk about this all the time, and we train our people to come in with the mindset that not everything is going to go according to plan.
Yeah.
That we have to expect something to be a little bit different, and be okay with that, and be ready to fix it when it does.
Exactly.
How do you instill the importance of taking care of people? You know, you do a lot of training now. What are the keys to helping somebody understand that?
Empathy versus sympathy. You know, putting yourself in relating to somebody and putting yourself into their shoes, I think, is the key. And trust me, this is something I preach every single day, because it's really hard. We put our blinders on to our unique positions, and it's sometimes hard to take the blinders off and pay attention to what's going on around you, and even who your partners or your stakeholders are that need to help you get to a, you know, successful outcome. We're so focused on our tasks and what we need to do, and sometimes we need to remember to take the blinders off and realize, you know what, you don't walk in that person's shoes. You need to understand what their day is like.
Right.
Something as simple as, who didn't show up for work today? Are they short-staffed? You know, why are they snapping at you? And understanding, how can you have partnered differently with them? So if we can figure out the empathy part a little bit more, and not the sympathy part, I think that's huge.
That nuance between those two is really crucial, because, you know, the golden rule, treat others as you would want to be treated. It has to shift from treat others the way they would like to be treated, and stop thinking about it from your perspective and more so from their perspective. I love that, and I think that that's really a crucial part of what makes great service and is integral in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
I completely agree. This is a fantastic conversation that we're having here. I, for one, am going over, you know, how can I empathize more with my passengers as being a part-time flight attendant, or with you guys. If you're having a bad day in here, I want to make sure that your outcome is good.
This is always a highlight of my day.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. And check us out, cobrt.com/live. Welcome back to Connect and Collaborate. We're having a fantastic conversation here. We've got Monica Cheeks, who's the corporate director of events at Hyatt Hotels. She is a guest of Anthony Lambatos, who's with us all week. I feel like that was Anthony Lambatos's.
There's more than one of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, there's been a Monday you and a Tuesday you. We normally just have a Wednesday, Anthony, so all week. But yeah, so Anthony, we're with you all week. We're talking hospitality. We turned the tables a little bit. Now we're focusing on the hotel industry, which kind of embodies all of the things in hospitality, right?
You got restaurants, you got the lodging, you have the events. Exactly.
Yeah, all of it. So I say we jump right back in.
Yeah, we touched a little bit on employment and being one of the big challenges right now, and especially here in Denver with it, at a historically low levels. What specifically is Hyatt doing to attract great people?
Trying to steal them? No. I would say a little bit of everything. I think that we've always got our eye on the new young workforce that's coming into graduating from universities. We look a lot at building from within. I mean, my biggest success stories are similar to my success story, and that would be how can we continuously develop and help people grow their career right from within the hotel, depending on which path they want to take. Half of my ex-team are all people that started as an admin assistant or as a hourly event concierge, or maybe they were a banquet server, or maybe a front desk agent somewhere else in the hotel that I saw potential in, really by their personality. I look first at strictly how do they engage? Are they have great eye contact? Do they have some confidence, not too overbearing, but if they can engage and connect with people, we can definitely teach them everything else. The computer skills and the technology and the steps of service and how to do and how to work with groups on their events and so on and so forth. I think that can all be so easy on the job learning. And the other part that you really can't teach is how they bring themselves to work or to engage with people. And so I'm looking for people just like that all the time.
It's important, though, because you're right. And for so long, I feel like companies have had it a little bit backwards, that they want somebody to come in with all these experience and all these skills. And like you said, we can train somebody what size linen goes on the 5-foot round and what size, how to do a room layout and all these, logistical things. Yes, it might take a little bit more work, but in the long run, if they've got those skills that you mentioned of engaging with people and that confidence, that's going to come much easier.
Yes.
As opposed to that short-term value. I can plug someone in right away. They know what to do. But, here 2 months later, it's a bad fit because they can't do the things that really, truly make the difference in that job.
Absolutely. And I think as we look at, young individuals coming out of universities that are interested in having a career in hospitality, staying, front and center in recruiting and being available to recruit from other avenues, whether it's coming from the restaurant industry, whether it's coming from a standalone catering industry, whether it's somebody coming from venues, whether it's somebody that, was a bartender, and I look at some people and I think, do you want to be a bartender when you're 45 and 50, or would you like to make a career of this and be the person that is planning and selling the events instead of the one that's doing?
Right.
So I look at a combination of everything, but it's difficult. It is hard to find people, and it's not a traditional Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job. And I think that also presents some challenges because you either have to have a vision that you're okay with not having that, and then make sure that you're very, very transparent about the expectations of, there could be 10-hour and 12-hour days occasionally, but you can balance that. You're going to shave off some time somewhere else and not have that 10 or 12-hour day. I think the traditions have changed.
I was going to say one of the incentives there about not being the typical Monday through Friday is if you want to go skiing, you can go on a Wednesday and there's nobody there to bug you.
I love when somebody tells me that. That's it's like slam dunk. They really appreciate that because it is hard when they're giving up so many weekends and every weekend their friends are doing something else and they have to resort back to work. That's a difficult thing for people to overcome, and so you really have to have people that are passionate about what they're doing and enjoying it and get that thrill from coming to work and who they work with. Which is what, I talk about it on almost every one of my shows, trying to create that great place to work. How do you do that? You've been at Hyatt for a long time. Talk a little bit about what you think makes Hyatt a great place to work and what's kept you there for so long.
I think part of it was the evolution, the growth that you can have with the company, the growth of the company itself, and the ability to grow with it was a big part of it. And I think that others see that as a benefit. I think Hyatt as a company, our mission, our purpose is to care for people so that they can be their best. Caring for those people, that means caring for each other. That's caring for our colleagues, caring for, leadership, caring for our customers, our guests, our planners, people as a general concept. We're all about a 5-day work week. And if your 5 days is a, Sunday through Thursday or a Tuesday through Sunday, then that's what it is. And if you need to work a 6th or a 7th day, you figure out when to take that 6th or 7th day off, maybe next week or the week after at some point in time to get those days back. So that's huge for us. And I don't think that is traditional across the industry with every hotel. So I think that's something that's a plus for Hyatt as a whole. The benefits are amazing. I mean, I do get to travel and I do get to stay at other Hyatts, and we get free nights, up to 12 free nights around any Hyatt we want to.
Wow.
And we also have great employee rates or colleague rates. So if those comps aren't available, we can get a very low rate to stay at those hotels. So there's a lot of perks in regards to traveling if you've got that travel bug in you. And I do think that we've got, we have the typical, benefits, I think, that most companies and workplaces offer, from medical and dental and health and fitness and wellness. And I think that knowing that you have that available makes it also a great place to work. But I'm going to go back to the empathy and the sympathy again, because I think that that's what we really are trying to live and instill all the time within our hotels and amongst each other. It's not just a lot of talk. It is, we've got leadership that is living and breathing that. And it starts at the top and it trickles down. And if it doesn't happen at the top, then it's dysfunctional, right? And it's broken and it's not really going to happen. And now you've got, apathy happening, going, this is not really happening. But I do feel very strongly that it is such a mindset that we're living and breathing within our Hyatt family. And I think it sets us apart, from some of the big guys that might be too big that can't do that.
Right. Can you dive into that a little bit, if you will, and talk about some of the things that actions that take place that you feel embody that?
Oh my gosh. Besides, the general benefits that you have, but, the things that we do, that we celebrating our people, we celebrate our people within the hotel on a monthly basis. Recognition, but public recognition, so that everybody is seeing that. Making sure that we're having fun at work, and that there's other things going on besides just focusing on the work. What are you doing to have fun? What type of things are you doing to measure your success? If you're like painting a wall with a cool way of a thermometer, or you're using Bitmojis, or whatever it is that's current in maybe your private life that is relevant to you, how can you weave it in and bring it into the workplace to make it fun? And you're spending most of your time there, so you might as well have a good time doing it.
I love that, because we talk about it at Footers that, this whole notion of keep your personal and professional life separate, we just don't subscribe to. I don't feel like you're a different person when you're at home compared to when you're at work, and you walk through this door and say, okay, let's, leave personal Anthony there and here's professional Anthony.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it happens that way. If something's not going well at home, it's going to impact your work. And if something's not going well at work, it's going to impact at home. So let's embrace the whole person and talk about what's going on and how can we be supportive in those times, because there's going to be times where one's going to need to give a little bit in order for the other one to be successful.
Absolutely.
And so I love that you're bringing some of that those fun things and weaving it into work. One of the things you told me one time, we were having a conversation, and I think it was a board meeting, and everybody, when they showed up, had their own personal bobblehead right in front of their
that was our place setting. It was so cool. That bobblehead's still sitting on my shelf at home. I'm like, how cool
the Monica
is that?
Cheeks bobblehead.
Yeah.
I love it.
I have a coffee cup from last year. I did a training session, and they had coffee cups made for us, and there was 5 of us trainers. And they took all 5 of our Bitmojis and put them on the little thermos coffee cup. And then there's an expletive on there that's pretty funny that fits in our world. But, we're kind of like a bad, we're good at what we do type of a thing.
Jammas, right?
Yeah,
that to me is culture. That's what it starts to be. It's those little things that aren't throwing a bunch of money at it. It's beyond the benefits and compensation, which are important, but don't make the difference and don't move the needle enough. And those are the things that you get excited, and I just see you light up talking about it too.
Oh, it's fun.
That's how everybody feels when you can find something fun that they recognize and identify with. We've MIBE Tribe has taken over at Footers. The middle part of our mission statement is make it better every day. So the acronym, somebody identified and said, hey, that's MIBE, and then somebody was like, yeah, MIBE Tribe, that's what we are. And so now, like, people, every meeting is ended with MIBE Tribe on 3.
It's taken a life of its own.
It has, and it's like, it wasn't even pushed by April or myself. This is all our people that embraced it and thought it was so cool, and now it, like you said, has taken on a life of its own.
And so I'm going to add and reinforce what you just said. That is where everything is. It's not top down, it's bottom up. It's letting them help be a part of leading and guiding where you want to go, or help designing what the compass is going to be, this month or next month, and that they're all a part of that. That changes the engagement and also moves that whole tribe or that team as one unit towards something. So I would say that very much so is our world. If I could travel to any Hyatt, I'm kind of seeing that same, feeling, that same engagement, that same vibe in and out of all the offices.
And that happens when everybody is moving in the same direction. And when you have a mission to care for people, like you mentioned, and that everybody understands what that means and knows that they're part of that, they're part of something bigger than who they are. You can give them the room to do things, because if they understand that and they know that's the general direction of the company, and I think overall people want to know what the boundaries are and where we're going, they then feel the freedom to be able to come up with those fun ideas and maybe throw out something that might be a little silly that otherwise they would be reserved and not want to say. And that's where the magic really starts to happen.
Silly is good.
Yeah, it is.
That's the fun component. I mean, being stuffy and fitting inside of a perfect box is not our world today. And that's not our next customer either.
That's
if you think about who our next group of customers are, we need to think about them. Yes.
We could go on for
we could
a long time about that. Let's move a little bit to your experience being a mentor, because that's something that I have a lot of respect in the time that you've given back. Specifically, I know at DU, but I think it's something that you've done to the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear just your kind of experience going down that road and why you felt that that was something that was important.
Yeah. I felt it was important because as I see our business changing, I see the influence that our young people have. The thoughts and ideas that come about how to do something different, or maybe there's a better way or just a different way to do it, might resonate. And I think originally in my career, I look back and I didn't realize that I had somebody that was a mentor. It wasn't a word that I recognized, or wasn't even my vocabulary when I first started as that busser, with Hyatt 30 something years ago. But the first person that was my mentor was my manager. And she happened to only be at the time, maybe also 23 or 24 years old, and very young in her position, and a new manager who went to school for hotel, restaurant, tourism management, was a corporate management trainee, and now a manager. So she went through the steps. She knew what she wanted to do. She was the first person who started telling me and showing me and encouraging me to try this. And kind of propped me up, I think. And I think I was always that person that never really was the one was seeking to seek out. But I always had people in my life say, you can do this. You should try this, or you should apply for this, or you would be good at this. And because I look back at that now and realize that because of all those people, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I never would have originally ever tried to be a director of catering because I liked being the number 2 or the manager. I had it under control. But I had so many people say to me, you should try it. You would be good at this. Just apply. Just try it once.
Push you out of your comfort zone.
And they totally pushed me out of my comfort zone. So with that has happened over and over and over again in my career. I realized in reflecting back that I could be that same person, because maybe some people just don't recognize it in them, and some people might not recognize maybe a couple things they need to do to just get over the hump or the speed bump. And so it started, and I realized it started just in the workplace initially. This was just having that admin assistant who was anxious and really wanted to get to the next level. How do you get to the next level? So obviously that's happening every day there, but then I realized, ooh, how can I get more of that? And how can I find more excited people? Enter University of Denver, as one of them, along with friends and family members calling me to say, hey, will you talk to my niece or nephew about blah, blah, blah? Absolutely, I will. I'd love to. And so I do. I talk to people on a regular basis in my travels, or people in the business world that I've met that might have a son or a daughter that are interested in the industry. I've spoken to so many different people, and every time I have that conversation with them, I'm fulfilled. I don't know if they are, but I get really jazzed and excited about it and passionate about it, and it's exciting to see where they're going to go and what they have to offer, and good for them. And if we can help them get there a little bit, that's the excitement that I have about talking to them.
I agree. I say the same thing. I love when people call up and just say, hey, can I have 30 minutes of your time to just, pick your brain about the industry or catering in general or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I will always make time for that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many times you throw that offer out there and it doesn't get taken up on. And that's a shame. It is. I think it is.
There's been some disappointments, where I've come in contact with what I thought were some amazing students that this is the path they wanted to do, but they have really never done anything to drive themselves to where they want to go.
Yeah.
They're just have an expectation of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get that. I'm like, doesn't really happen that way.
Still got to work.
Yeah.
So on that note, what do you tell people that are looking to get into the hospitality industry?
First of all, I try to figure out where they want to go, because not everybody necessarily wants to be in events. I do talk to a lot of people that are interested in revenue or in the rooms area or other divisions within a hotel. So first I want to figure out where they want to go. And then I ask them, well, what have you done? What do you do during the summers? What do you do for, side jobs or a little bit of work? How do you balance, your education? I just want to kind of see what their capacity is, because I've seen some that don't do any summer jobs. They enjoy their summers off and have fun and then just go back to school. So there's I'm not seeing a history of any type of service experience. I want to see if they've got that service heart a little bit.
Yep.
And then those that have dabbled, and tried different things and done internships, and try to encourage them to start looking,
Yes.
and where is it that you want to go? Do you see yourself in a restaurant? Do you see yourself in a catering company? Do you see yourself working in a hotel? Do you want to be here in Colorado? Do you want to go somewhere else? Where do you want to live? You start just uncovering and peeling back the onion, of all of those things. And then, for me, if I could help make a couple connections based on some of their interests or maybe where they see themselves starting, if I can make just introductions, that is a great place to start. And that's, I can say, gosh, that just happened probably in the last month already, with people I'm connecting with that have moved into Denver from somewhere else that are trying to find a job,
Sure.
So not everybody's hotel, and some might be for that customer. So I think about some of my old customers that I did galas for that are in the nonprofit world, or maybe they're more suited to that side versus being in a hotel.
And that's something that I think has from a little bit of an outsider perspective, but also getting to know you, something that's made you very successful. You have connected yourself very well with people in the industry, and you talking about the working with your clients to a point that you would refer somebody to them, I think speaks volumes about the relationships that you've developed. And why you're so well respected.
Yeah, thanks. That's a cool thing.
I agree. And I love what you said about, encouraging people to try. Just go start somewhere. I feel the same way. Somebody who's asking all these questions and you ask them, what are you doing? And, oh, I nanny. And it's like, okay, that's good. But like, if you want to start doing this, you've got to figure out what you like and what you potentially more important don't like, and go work in that restaurant. And if that's not your jam, that's okay, but you've now had that experience and you can build on that. You need a measurement stick, right? Yes. So I'm a perfect story. I have a young lady years ago working for me as an assistant, did a concierge role in the hotel, felt like, okay, I did this and this, I should absolutely be a manager next now. So when's that going to happen, Monica? I said, well, when the right position for your entry level, which would be your role, is available, you'd be perfect for it. Didn't happen fast enough. So she left and decided to go work for a local catering company because she could be a catering sales manager. And I knew right away, because I knew her personality type, that it was going to be a great experience, and I totally encouraged it, but I knew she would be back. I knew she would be back because the difference being in a hotel, you've got layers, you have people to do things, and you've got a little bit more structure and policy and procedures and, how you do everything, versus you have to wear many hats when you have a catering company. You might be that salesperson, but we might need you there that night too to say hello to that, couple or family. Needless to say, she came back and now she's still at the hotel to this day as a very, very successful event sales manager and is just rocking it. But she didn't have a measurement stick. She needed to see the other side to understand what she had. And appreciate it.
So people need to see and experiment with different areas for sure.
Awesome. Monica, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining today.
You're welcome.
Yes, absolutely. I'm enjoying this as well. It's fantastic to hear the hotel side of things on this hospitality week that we're taking with Anthony. Be sure to check out this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-production. Nope. podcast. Excuse me. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.